Hey, welcome back. Well, you know, it's getting to be the end of the day. And just before I head off to Sleepland, I seem to be yawning a lot, don't I? Anyway, I want to talk to you about insulin itself. Now, most people know that Banting and Best doctors discovered insulin back in 1924, maybe 27, I'm not sure. But you don't understand. People were literally dying of type 1 diabetes. You went to the doctor, you saw the doctor said, oh, he's got type 1. You'd probably be lucky if you lived a year, because your sugar had no place to go. And you know, you're not gonna, it really wasn't sort of like, oh, I'll just sit here and wait. It was, you're not really giving any contribution to man or woman or humankind, because the insulin, which is the key to give energy, just doesn't exist. So people start going to the bathroom all the time, vomiting. They would be like skeletons. And I gotta tell you, it wasn't any fun. If you are type 1, remember that before you got diagnosed? I still do. I can remember feeling like crap before I got diagnosed. And I'm thinking, how could this go on this long? There were times, but way back in one of the cave dwellings. Yeah, right. Where people described diabetes. And it was kind of like what it was like for years with AIDS. No one really knew what to do. And luckily, there were people doing research, and that's what ended up. So, they had insulin in 1924. Insulin spread across the world. Dr. Banting sold the patent for $1 because he wanted everyone the ability to get insulin. Now we're hearing that in the States it's run by 3 companies and the prices are going through the roof. And how could that be? How could that be? But we talked about that already. When people get diagnosed with diabetes, when they're let go from the hospital, chances are they're given a dose of insulin to take. But they're something new. They had to take at least 2 types of insulin. Well, one of the downfalls of insulin is it didn't cure diabetes. It helps us control it, helps us get the upper hand. So every day there's insulin trying to be closer to that first one of getting into your bloodstream quicker and getting out quicker. But there's also there's an intermediate and then there's a long-acting. Some go now for 24 hours. In my day, way back in 1977, I was given an intermediate type of insulin and a short-acting. And everyone was doing this. You could have semi-lante, you could have ultra-lante. Now they're really on to the fast-acting. Oh, one thing I gotta point out about insulin back then, there was made out of beef and pork. So if you had an allergy to either beef or pork, it was a little touchy. Then, through my life, it had switched. It had switched to what they call human insulin. And human insulin really isn't human insulin at all. But it's formulated to be exactly like the human insulin. So that cleared out an awful lot of problems. The human insulin, since it was very close to yourself, you really did not get problems with it. And I can remember years ago, people at diabetic camp would have problems with the insulins. Now, I've mentioned this before about building our community, but if you're older, type 1, maybe, 20-year-old or whatever, you should try working at a diabetic camp for 1 year. It will open your eyes. You learn so much there. I went there thinking, oh yeah, I know it all, blah, blah, blah. I learned a hell of a lot coming out of that. I learned a better way of giving insulin. I know how to tell if a person is having a low blood sugar at night or not. And that's just a simple tug on the ears. And if the person screams and doesn't wake up, you're not wrenching on the ear. Excuse me. You're just sort of a little pull. And if they move around, chances are they're not low. I don't know, it could never be used on me, but who knows. But, everyone takes something out of that. A lot of it, yes, the morning and the afternoon, we had to do our tests and we had to remember. Now, this was before blood tests, so it was all urine tests, and we had to do every 1 urine test, and But I would have liked to see it later on where They got their finger pokes and everything. That would have been so much easier now. But it was the first time I really got to fly on a plane. Well, not the first time. I can remember going to Toronto with my mom on a plane, but I never really sort of remembered the flying. I remember a stewardess taking me to the back of the plane where she read me a book just to give my mom a rest. I guess I was talking like this the whole night. But insulins, there are so many different varieties. I think the fastest one on the market now is Fiasp. And I was on Fiasp for a bit, but it was before Fiasp got clearance by Pharmacare. So you know what? I eventually went back to Humalog. And now there's a generic version of Humalog. And from things I've read, like, YouTube videos, that insulin is relatively cheap to make. It's just such a markup that they want people to pay. And a lot of diabetics have died because they can't afford. Maybe not in Canada, but down in the U.S., there is truly a problem with people not able to get insulin, or when they get able to get insulin, it is spread out through the days, and they're not taking their full dose, and they start going into DKAs. And come on, free insulin for all. I'm surprised people haven't started packaging air for every single person to breathe. Now, we need free insulin for all. That's a thought. Maybe a campaign with t-shirts. Yes, I can see it now. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.